Now, like everyone, I couldn't believe my eyes when I saw the footage of that woman being arrested in Ballarat yesterday. Now, let's make it very clear. I don't like any of the protests during the time of a pandemic, be it Black Lives Matter, be it the anti-maskers, or be it those that want to do so for freedom. On Saturday, you shouldn't be doing it. You've seen it, but it's worth seeing again because, I'll be honest, when I first saw this, I thought, this has to be fake. It's not.
Now, you're under arrest in relation to incitement.
Incitement?
Yeah. Now, you're not obliged to say or do anything, but anything you say or do may be given evidence.
Excuse me, incitement for what? What on earth? Excuse me, what on earth?
Just put your phone down.
Can you, like,
relation
record
to-
this? I'm in my pyjamas.
What's this?
I have an ultrasound in an hour. because
Yeah,
I'm
she's pregnant.
That's fine, can I just...
Let me finish. Any mobile telephone you've got, okay? So what we want is any mobile telephone you've got.
You're going to need that.
No, it's actually my sister's phone. It's not your
Yeah,
name.
it's her sister.
Doesn't matter. Any device in this house we're taking.
This is
Well,
ridiculous.
You're not taking my phone.
I'm taking any device, mate.
That's my phone. It's nothing to do with her. It's my phone.
Now, of course, during the video, she says, I'll take the post down. If the problem's the post, I'll take the post down. But no, the crime had already been committed, and they're going to come down on these people like a ton of bricks. I again repeat, for those that are half listening, I don't support any suggestions for the protests. But I'm going to show you, in their own words, the hypocrisy of how the Black Lives Matter protests were treated versus these potential anti-lockdown protests. But we heard today from the woman who was in her pyjamas and arrested in front of her kids, put into handcuffs for the crime of putting something on Facebook the government didn't like.
I'm sick of the lockdowns. I'm sick of hearing about suicides. I personally lost my job, and just sick of watching the economy collapse. It's getting to the point where, I wanted to peaceful protest, and I don't want anyone going to jail or anyone getting hurt or, anything like that. So, I'm not going to sit here and encourage protesting. It's just so emotional, like I'm just baffled.
And understandably, why wouldn't you feel that way? I've just shown you that the lockdown in Victoria is going to be longer than the one that happened in Wuhan, is going to be longer than what happened in Italy, where the deaths are in the many thousands. Yet today, the police commissioner was absolutely doubling down on the behaviour of the officers and, more importantly, carrying out the government's edicts. This stuff should be frightening, and you know how much I support police.
I mean, if we started to say, oh, well, look, we can't possibly hold this person to account because of a particular attribute, I mean, where do we draw the line? The key piece here is we're focusing on behaviour. And in this case, we're alleging that this individual engaged in serious criminal behaviour, inciting a public protest at a time when public protest is unlawful. We absolutely support our members in relation to that matter.
And he wasn't done.
As I said last week, we would be out and about in the community, identifying people who were urging and inciting these protests. We would be identifying them and taking action. And indeed, that's what we have been doing over the past week. So we have made a number of arrests over the course of this past week. Be assured we'll be ready for you. And we'll be ready for you not only in the city, but we'll be ready for you when you leave home and hop on public transport or use other means to come into the city. We will be ready to meet you.
So, serious criminal conduct, posting about a protest on Facebook, will get you. Like Winston Churchill, rather than we'll fight you on the beaches, it's we'll stop you from going to the beaches. We'll prosecute you in the hills. Let's compare that with Black Lives Matter. Black Lives Matter posted their intent to have a protest. It was on Facebook and 46,000 people said, I'm in. All have a name, all can be contacted, all could be knocked on the door by the police. They even held press conferences, yet no arrests took place.
We want Aboriginal people to stop dying in custody at the hands of police and in prison. It's an essential service to protect the human rights of people.
Now, it wouldn't surprise you that the police had a completely different attitude about these protests. It will particularly stun you that the person who was making comments when these protests were hiding in plain sight, their organisers had their names publicly and they were giving press conferences, is the bloke who was then an assistant commissioner and is now the top cop. Because, of course, wokeness is an excuse for anything.
And I want to be very clear in saying that Victoria Police understands and acknowledges the anger and frustration people feel about events taking place overseas and which are dominating our TV. We absolutely understand the sentiment and the anger that lies behind that, and we're very keen to support community here in giving voice to their concerns and their protest and ensuring that the city is kept safe, that people in the city are kept safe and protesters are able to lawfully exercise their right to protest.
One protest is serious criminal behaviour. The other one, we understand. And remember, when the Premier was asked about it, he said, well, we can't really fine everyone who turns up because there'll be too many people and we'll run out of fine paper to hand out.
Simply not feasible to be fining people or to be arresting people for breaking the COVID rules, particularly given that there may be many thousands of people at this protest.
So as long as you have enough people to swamp the police, you'll be able to get away with it. So unsurprisingly, when the police said what they said, when the Premier said what he said, and when no one's house got raided, after not only they launched the demand for a protest on Facebook, they held press conferences where people knew their name, the protest happened in tens of thousands of people, including compulsory voters like this.
This is a call to arms for people across the world to stand up against a lot of the deaths in custody.
Because they are treated differently, it's a matter of fact.
I don't even believe that coronavirus exists. COVID is a distraction from the fact, and I think it's really hard to deny the overwhelming body of evidence massing about the Queen of England being a Satanist, as well as leaked information about the Queen of England being involved in Lady Diana's murder, information about Trump being involved in Jeffrey Epstein's murder, and I think this is all just a big distraction.
So, the obvious crazy who doesn't believe coronavirus is real, you can protest. The person who's had enough of the lockdowns who says, oh, look, you know what, I think we probably should have a protest, you get locked up in front of your family. It's a disgrace. And especially to show the double standards about policing, and it's not happening from the men and women on the ground, but clearly coming from the brass. The brass who ended up becoming the top brass after carrying out Daniel Andrews' agenda of what constitutes a serious crime or one that deserves a high five along the way. Because just 2 days later, police were out in force, not to stop protesters, but to stop people fishing at the Mornington Peninsula. One rule for them, one rule for everyone else. The only difference, wokeness. And the human shields on Twitter who apparently see no problem with an obvious double standard. I repeat, both protests are pointless because they shouldn't be happening during a pandemic. It doesn't mean that these people don't have things they care about and can't use all of the forums that they have other than physically taking to the streets, because the lack of social distancing ultimately can lead to a second wave. Thankfully, the protest did not lead to the second wave in Victoria, but it did send a message to the community. We're not all in this together. And from that moment on, we never have been.